Well, as we get closer and closer to Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, the movies that were filmed after Robert Downey Jr. was announced as Doom, and therefore after Marvel Studios knew what their actual plans were, those movies are going to start to show us kind of the new direction that Marvel is heading towards with the multiverse saga. Movies like The Thunderbolts and Captain America Brave New World will tie in a little bit to the multiverse saga, but these movies were filmed pretty much before they knew Robert Downey Jr. and Doctor Doom was the direction that they're going to go. But now, moving forward with films like the Fantastic Four, we're going to start to see more of their plan unfold. And depending how you view what they're going to do will make this plan either really awesome or maybe not so much. What's really interesting is that the new plan is to basically give fans what they want. And of course, I'll break down what that means in this video, but this is something that I had been hearing about for a few months now. And now some other insiders are reporting this, so I feel like we're all hearing the same thing, which leads me to believe that this is the direction that Marvel Studios is taking the multiverse saga, and this is their new plan. And the plan is essentially to kind of revert back to what worked before while adding basically a ton of cameos. It's not quite that simple, and I'll explain further, but we've already seen pieces of this already start to happen. Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom because that's kind of what worked before Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans is returning to the MCU because that's what worked before, and it sounds like he's gonna play multiple variants, and now we're getting some reports that Scarlett Johansson is in talks to return as well. But it's about to get a lot bigger than just those three legacy actors returning. And there's no better way to demonstrate this than a recent report from Alex Perez over at thecosmiccircus.com. He recently talked a lot about what Marvel Studios and Sony have planned for the next Spider-Man film, Spider-Man 4. And it lines up with basically what I heard Marvel Studios plans on doing. Not specifically for Spider-Man 4, but just in the MCU in general. But this is what he said about Spider-Man 4 in his recent Q&A when somebody pretty much asked about the death of the Sony universe and Null going to be the endgame of Spider-Man 4. And what he says is very telling of Marvel Studios' new mindset, new strategy, new plan. For starters, he replied that Sony is never in a million years going to let go of the Spider-Man IP. There were some rumors going around that Sony was considering selling Spider-Man rights back to Marvel Studios. I didn't really think that was true. I don't think Sony will ever do that, and it looks like Alex believes that as well, as unfortunate as that is. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that they'll license the characters over to Marvel and let them be in the MCU. But secondly, he said this, but I'll tell you this about Null, and this is specifically about Null appearing in Spider-Man 4. He said, I still believe we're going to get to see him in Spider-Man 4. Too many pieces are falling into place at the same time. While we're on the subject matter of the endgame for Spider-Man 4, a lot has clearly transpired over the last few days or weeks when it comes to what the plot of this film is. Doom, Mephisto, Ghost Rider, Null, Venom, Daredevil, etc. We need to focus on the primary fact that while I can trust my sources and trust my reporting, many of those of you reading won't believe it until either the studio or the trades confirm it. It could be all of those, or it could be none. What I can tell you is what I've been told from my sources. And what I've been told is that both Marvel and Sony want this film in particular to be a team-up movie in the way that Marvel produced Deadpool and Wolverine. And that the end goal here is to recapture that same magic and team-up dynamic, but switch out Deadpool and Fox for Spider-Man and Sony. Based on that, plus the multiverse setting that this film has, it is reasonable to assume that out of all of the possible team-up options, Tom Hardy's Venom is the most likely option between him, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, or any other character. Therefore, having these two characters interact likely points to the inclusion of Null as the final antagonist for these characters. Not to mention, Two of the trusted sources have told me they are planning to bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield for a larger participation than they had in No Way Home. He talks a little bit more about some other characters possibly showing up based off of what other insiders have said, but this isn't a Spider-Man video. It's about what Marvel's plans are, which we heard basically with what he said. Marvel plans to essentially copy what Deadpool and Wolverine was. They want to do a buddy team-up film, and it sounds like it might be with Venom and the other two Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And this kind of goes along with what I've been hearing. And basically, in a nutshell, what I've been hearing is that Marvel Studios has seen what works and are just going to continue to do that. What has worked? Well, the two biggest ones since Avengers Endgame are Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. And what made these movies so good? Admittingly, the plot wasn't super solid for Deadpool and Wolverine, yet it was still a massive success. And if we ask ourselves why, like Marvel Studios has been asking, it obviously comes down to pretty much what everybody would guess. It's the dynamic between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, the dynamic between Deadpool and Wolverine, the comedy, the action, plus they do have a lot of heartfelt moments in the movie. Does the movie have flaws? Totally. But many people don't really care because everything else is fantastic. The action, the comedy, the cameos, basically fan service. And that's kind of what Marvel's getting at right now. Again, like I said, you can see it. Robert Downey Jr.'s here, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson. It's already happening. It already happened in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. John Krasinski was Mr. Fantastic. People loved it. People hated that he died, but it was really cool to see him and the rest of the Illuminati. Marvel has realized that this is what works. They have experimented a lot since Phase 4 has begun, and they obviously realized that Marvel Studios has not been at its peak since Phase 4 has started. Yes, we've had some amazing things since Phase 4. They've had a lot of hits, they've had a lot of things that were just kind of in the middle, and they've had a few, just in my personal opinion, misses. I've never thought Marvel was dead, and I've always been pretty happy with everything, but it could definitely be better, and that's what Marvel Studios is focusing on, how to make it the absolute best they can for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And from what I'm hearing and what other people are saying, they are going to follow the same pattern that they have done for Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. A good story most certainly matters. And now that we're in the multiverse saga's kind of end almost, talking about from the Fantastic Four movie on, so Fantastic Four, Spider-Man 4, Doomsday, Secret Wars, that's kind of the end for us. And whatever secret movie they have in there, like Doctor Strange 3 or the Scarlet Witch, whatever it may be. But we actually are getting relatively close. So how does Marvel Studios make Doomsday and Secret Wars bigger than Endgame and Infinity War? Well, you double down on what works and you go even bigger. That's why we might get both Spider-Man and Venom and Null in Spider-Man 4. Plus, so many people have been rumored, like Alex mentioned, Doom, Mephisto, Ghost Rider, etc. I'm sure they're considering all of those. And that's why we've also heard that Avengers Doomsday could include over 60 characters. Because Marvel's going to do the same thing. They're going to shove a lot of people in it. They're going to do some cameos from very famous actors. They'll do cameos for returning actors. Some will just be to pop up here and fight alongside people for a brief moment, and some will have pretty important roles to play. They're going to give us a lot of action. They're going to give us a lot of comedy. And in the midst of all of that is going to be a good story. That's why I'm okay with this. This isn't going to be fan service for the sake of fan service and just make it only about cameos or only about team ups. They know that at the heart of it is a good story. They want to make the best possible story they can and then put all of this goodness on top of it to make it just amazing. And honestly, the success of Deadpool and Wolverine has kind of showed, let's say just everyone, that if the story is at least decent, like it's a good story but has some holes in it here and there, but everything else around it is fantastic, then yes, that does equal an amazing movie. But imagine getting the story 100% right. Then we have an epic movie. Then you get movies like Infinity War and Endgame, which is exactly what Marvel Studios is obviously going for. They're actually trying to go higher, but you get it. And this is how they're going higher. I like to phrase it, fan service done right and strategically. And I'm here for it. Again, if they can do this all the right way, I think it's going to turn out amazing. Give us a good story, give us some heartfelt moments, and then bring in the cameos, bring in the team ups, give us great action, give us great comedy, do Doom right, the best you can with Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom, and boom, there it is. two amazing Avengers movies. And I mean, it's Avengers Secret Wars. There's supposed to be a bunch of different variants. We're in the multiverse saga. They're supposed to do this. It fits with the overall story. It all just works. It's been shown to work with No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, and we're basically going to get that on a much grander scale. And I, for one, I'm here for it. I'm super excited. But how do you feel? Do you like this or perhaps not? Leave all of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all things with the MCU. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.